Hi, I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation. And the topic we're going to discuss today is, does it matter if our marriage counselor is Christian? Welcome back. So this question of who we hire as a marriage counselor is an important question. And rather than say Christian, well, obviously, if you're fundamental in your beliefs, and you're just not going to listen to anyone unless they are Christian, then yes, it does matter. It's not the same as going to a dentist where you don't really care whether they're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or whatever. And you don't ask and you don't care. But otherwise, if you're just spiritual, and that's important to you, and I'm spiritual, and it's important to me, and I'm going to tell you why it should be important to you. And it's very interesting. I discovered this, I don't want to say the hard way, but in 2001, I used to be a divorce mediator. So I didn't know anything about marriage counseling except that it led to divorce. And I made plenty of money. And then a couple asked me to help them save their marriage. And I learned a lot about marriage counseling. More importantly, I learned a lot about marriage healing. And now we've got two books. I've got Breaking the Cycle and Lessons for a Happy Marriage. They're both wonderful. They've been around a long time. And we also have online courses, one for men and one for women. And although they don't preach religion, and I don't preach religion, I don't tell anyone what my religion is. It doesn't really matter. But it's spiritual. And why is spiritual important? Because, frankly, it's because the world today is insane because there's no guardrails, there's no morality unless there's some belief in God and some understanding, and it gets deeper than that. Because marriage is not just about how you behave. It isn't. I mean, obviously there's better and worse ways to behave in marriage, and it's unique to marriage. But more importantly is that marriage is built upon the foundation of love. And love, if you look up love, if you Google love right now, you will find that the common belief about love is that it's an increased form of like. And they'll even give you examples. And that's nonsense, honestly. Yeah, there is a psychological love, and that's what they're talking about. My personal preference are the Yankees. I love the Yankees. And it's because blah, 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 blah. And it's psychological. And my father loved the Mets. And the truth of the matter, though, is that that's not love. That's what appeals to the ego. But we don't get married for that. We get married because we experience something that is not definable by the mind, that transcends, it's above and beyond the ability of the mind to understand it or quantify it or explain it. Why? Because it is spiritual. Because it's an attribute of God Himself. Love is what we crave. We crave love. We have to have it. There was a psychologist who put together the hierarchy of needs. And the way he inserted love wasn't correct, because love is the ultimate and the primary need that we have. And I would say it is above even food and water. Because when you're experiencing love, the need for food and water takes a second place without our having to put it there. It's natural. That feeling of love that you experienced when you connected with your soulmate was an explosion that the mind then tried to put into a box. And so marriage counselors, by and large, not only try to put it in a box, but they explain love as an abstract thought, which is insane. Every thought we have is abstract except for love, because it's not a thought. And it's not a feeling up here. It's not a psychological feeling. It comes from here. And from this love comes compassion, understanding, a desire to serve, selflessness, all of these qualities that we regard as saintly and right, but we don't put them into our marriage. So if you find a marriage counselor who gets that, and they're not necessarily religious, but they're deep, and they understand this, and let me give you a great example. In 2011, we were ready. Now, I started working on this in 2001. In 2011, I hired a friend, Kathy Rose. I said, Kathy Rose, it's time to start training marriage counselors to how we do it. We were in San Diego County. I said, I want you to call everybody who's a marriage counselor. And I want you to ask them a question. And then, if they answer this question correctly, I want you to follow up and say, I represent Paul Friedman. We didn't have the Marriage Foundation at the time. I represent Paul Friedman, and he'd like to meet with you and give you his book. And so the question was very simple. Do we have a soul, or are we a soul? Think about that. Do we have a soul, or are we a soul? And out of well over 100, there were, 30 who answered correctly. Correctly is, we are a soul. We have a mind and we have a body. And I met with them, and out of those who responded in that way, because they already showed that they get it. And if you don't get it at that level, our stuff you won't get at all if you're a marriage counselor. Now, I was able to help people who didn't have that at all, and they would come to me, and I could take them anyway into this place of understanding love through different methods that to this day, not to this day because I don't work with people anymore, but in my office, I would help them see that love is far greater than what they might think they should do. And so out of those, we ended up working with about 13 who became TMF, the Marriage Foundation marriage counselors, who get it. Were they Christians? Some were. Some were not. It really didn't matter to me. Now, one was like a very intense Catholic, and he made it clear, and so I knew he was Christian. And one was almost an atheist. He wasn't an atheist, but he certainly wasn't a religionist, but he totally got it that if you don't focus on the love, if you don't build a marriage from the love out, it isn't going to work. And so those are the marriage counselors. If you're one of those, by the way, you could take our marriage counselor training course. But those are the marriage counselors who succeed their clients. And so I guess that's the answer to that. Now, better than marriage counseling is what we offer. You may not need marriage counseling, even if you think your marriage is coming to an end. It could be a distraction for you. Learning about marriage is a first step. Not the only first step, but it's a first step. And this is covered in the books that I've written, which do very well, and in our online course. We have a 12-week course, very reasonably priced, very easy to obtain, even comes with a 3-day free trial. The point is this: if you have to choose between an atheist and a Christian, go with the Christian, because at least you'll learn the morality. But it's better to get the vast understanding of marriage so you could really succeed. I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Council. We're here to serve you. I hope and pray this was helpful for you. God bless you. And leave a comment, and I'll be sure to respond. Thank you. Take care.